Hey everyone, this video I'm going to be replacing my brake pads. Before I get to that, as some of you may have noticed, I have completely changed the look of my scooter now. I had vinyl wrap on the chassis, and on the stems it was a blue metallic that at different angles would change to purple. I decided to go to a all black, gloss black. And this is also vinyl wrap made by Vivid, a company called Vivid. You can find it on Amazon. I got a 1x5 foot sheet for about 12 bucks. That's all I needed to do this. So the entire stem's there, the whole center part there is all black vinyl wrap. This is all vinyl wrap on the chassis here. Paint on the back end there. Anyway, it came out pretty good. I accented with some yellow. I'll go over this all in a different video. Today I want to concentrate on the brake pads, which are well overdue. I believe I've got about 4,000 miles on these brake pads basically. So I'm hoping these work. They're ceramic. I got them on Amazon, 10 bucks for 4 sets, so I'll have an extra set for next time. Alright, I'm going to start with the rear brakes, and the first thing I need to do obviously is remove the rear caliper. Using a 5mm Allen wrench. There's 2 screws, one on each side, there and there. Remove those and the whole caliper should lift off. So you got 2 screws out, and now I can just lift the caliper straight up and off the rotor here. Just going to let that to the side. This is the hydraulic line. Don't kink it back and forth, but it's okay to just hang here. This isn't that heavy. So this is a pretty standard caliper from what I can tell. Nothing special about it. All of them are pretty much very similar. So I got my 2 brake pads there, worn thin. On the top side, there's a metal spring, kind of this thing in the middle here that flexes, so that holds the brake pads in. And then there's a cotter pin through all of the brake pads and the spring, holding everything together. So the first thing I need to do to remove these is straighten this cotter pin, take it out, and then I should be able to get the spring out. Okay, that cotter pin took a little bit to bend it straight. It's pretty tough, but I just used my bigger needle nose pliers there and got a hold of it and was able to do it. Once you remove the cotter pin, this whole piece slides out. The spring in the middle, which I'm holding, and then the 2 brake pads. So that just all comes out once you have the cotter pin out. Alright, so there's the old setup there, and I'm not going to need to save any of this. The new pads come with a new spring and the new cotter pin. So all this I'm just going to be throwing out, but now the moment of truth to see if the new pads and the old pads are indeed the same size. Alright, there's my new ones on top, and comparing these closely, they look like they're going to fit perfectly, so no worries there. And here's a comparison of the wear from the old ones. This is the old pad. You can see how far worn down it is there, and then here's the new one. So yeah, I was probably overdue on changing these. Like I said, I think got about 4,000 miles on these pads alone. But I don't do hard braking. I always anticipate my stopping. So I'm pretty easy on my brakes usually. So just like any hydraulic braking system, we have a piston in the caliper here. Before I put my new brake pads in that are going to be wider, I'm going to need to create a little more room. Take your pliers or my channel locks or something, and try to push this piston back in a little bit. Okay, so I was able to push both of those pistons back in a little bit, create a little bit more room, so it should be nice and easy to get my brake pads with the spring up through there and then put the cotter pin through. Okay, so now reassembling the new brake pads. You want to take your spring in the middle there, and it should go on the outsides of the pads themselves on either side there, rest on the plate, and have the pad enclosed. On the other side, the pad hole is on the outside of the spring. So that's kind of how that looks. Okay, so got that all assembled now. At this point, I should be able to push this up through the caliper, align the holes with the holes in the caliper, and then stick the cotter pin through. Alright, so that went pretty smoothly. Spring in the middle, pad on either side of the spring, all the holes lined up, cotter pin through the whole thing. And the other side, there's my nice new pads. Okay, ready to put this back onto the rotor now. Hopefully I've created enough room, it looks like I have, where this will slide over nicely without rubbing. Got the caliper mounted back up, got my screws back in. I have not tightened them all the way because I now need to adjust it, and the easiest way to do that is leave this loose, like I said, put these in but don't tighten them all the way. The holes for these screws are kind of oval, so there's play in them where they can move back and forth, and you need to do that in order to adjust them to where your rotor is so you get no rubbing. I've actually just recently replaced my rotor too, so I have a nice straight rotor. So the way I'm going to do this is, once again, you want to make sure this is loose enough where the caliper can move back and forth a little bit on those oval holes. So you can see now, as I pull my rear brakes, the pads come over and make contact with the rotor, and that's going to basically adjust my caliper to the proper position with the brakes on. So now that I'm holding the brakes right now, I'm now going to tighten up those two screws. All right, got the screws tightened down. I can spin my motor and I don't hear any excessive rubbing. I got a tiny little rub, but because these brake pads are new, I'm going to give them a chance to break in a little bit before I do any further adjustments to it. Let's give a couple test runs here. Throttle a little bit, hit the brakes. Try it again. Seems pretty good. And just doing that got rid of the little bit of rubbing that I had. So good to go. Just got to do the same thing with the front now. Okay, real quick here too, there's an adjustment you can make on your brake handle lever. If you look in the end there, you can see there's a Allen screw. You can see I now have a 2mm Allen wrench going into that screw on the end there. And if you turn it clockwise, it's going to adjust your handle further out away from your handlebars. If you turn it counterclockwise, it's going to bring it in. Okay, so I've adjusted it pretty much all the way in. I didn't want to go any further because that is counterclockwise and the screw's coming out. I don't want it to come all the way out, so I stopped there. But you can see there's not a lot of room here. And when I hit my brakes, it's almost pulling back all the way to the handlebar. Now if I take my 2mm Allen wrench, start going clockwise, you can see the handles moving outwards away from the handlebars. So you can pick a position that's what's comfortable for you, and so you have enough pressure on your brake pads. And of course, same process on the front. First remove the caliper, removing this bottom screw and this top screw. And once the screws are moved, the caliper will just slide right off of the rotor. So I remove the cotter pin and start pushing the brake pad spring combination out through the bottom, and just pull that out through the bottom. I've got the new spring and pads set up. Okay, so I'm actually really just taking my pliers and putting some pressure on the piston to push it back in, and I'll do that on both sides. That looks pretty good. Now I just need to take my setup there, push it up through from the bottom to the holes aligned on top with the holes in the spring and the pads, and put the cotter pin in. And there we have it. Got the cotter pin back in. Everything's in place. Okay, got the caliper back on the rotor. Same as the back. I've put these screws in, but I have not tightened them down all the way because I want this to have some play in it. And now I'm simply going to apply the front brake. So as the pads push against the rotor, which will adjust the caliper. Pull the handle a few times, you can see it moving there. And now I'm just going to hold the handle, and while I'm holding it and putting pressure on it, I'm now going to tighten the 2 screws. Okay, so I got the screws tightened down, released the brake handle, applied it a few times. I do have some rubbing. So what I'm going to do now is, again, loosen the screws, 2 screws enough where I can manipulate the caliper. You can kind of move the top and bottom side to side. Okay, I got this adjusted really good now. There's absolutely no rubbing. So I loosened the 2 screws on the caliper so it was loose and I could just move it by hand. And then I put a light on the ground. And then if you go from the front of the scooter and look at the rotor, follow it down, you can see where the caliper goes over the top, and you can see the spacing on each side of the rotor where your brake pads are. So I can see a space there, and then as you rotate the tire, if you had some rubbing, you would be able to see if it rubs up on the left side or the right side, or wherever it is, and then you can simply move your caliper back and forth like this, or left or right, until you can find a spot like this where there's no rubbing. It's right down the middle. A lot of calipers won't be straight like this. Again, this is a brand new one, so it's really straight. My old ones were bent a little bit. When you have a case of that, then you're going to have a rubbing like only in one spot while you're rotating the tire to like rub every time it rotates around. In that case, you can do the same thing. Let's say it was too far this way at this point, that maybe the rotor was bent over this way a little bit at that point. I would then just like put my finger right at the edge and know that that point is right behind my finger, bring it out here. If I gotta move it in that way, take a rubber mallet, give it a few taps, keep doing the process until you can get that part straight. If you needed to bring it out this way, I usually would put my long nose vice clamps on it and then gently pull it out. I know it's not the best thing, but that's what worked for me in the past when I had bent rotors. Anyway, that's why I bought these new rotors too. I got 2 of them for 13 bucks, something like that, on Amazon. And so now I got nice straight ones again. Anyway, these front brakes look good now. I just took it for a ride up down the street a few times, test out the brakes. They work really good. Got 2 more sets of pads for the future. And again, I got these off Amazon. At the store here, Zacro is the name of the store. 4 pairs, ceramic, 10 bucks. Here's the rotors I got. 2 pieces, you got 2 in a pack. 140 millimeter, that's the size you want for the 11-inch wheels. And I just got the silver ones, 140 millimeter, 2 pieces, 10 bucks as well. Good upgrade if you need to, if you have bent rotors. And these are certainly seem to be pretty good. Ceramic brake pads, 4 pairs, I'm sorry, for $10. So I'll have some extras laying around as well. All right, that's it for this one, guys. Until next time, take care. Peace. Ride safe.